Okay, so we'll move on to the second question, which is if you found out conclusively, so absolutely conclusively, that God did not exist, what would be your biggest worries or concerns? So it's not saying that like it's just a hypothetical, obviously. But if you did find out that God didn't exist conclusively, what would be the thing that you would worry about the most?
Well, I think I touched on it last time, is my previous fear of death
Mm,
and just how petrifying it is to just die and there be nothing. I remember as a child finding out that I'm gonna die, and I remember crying just continuously for hours.
mm.
I can't remember how old I was, but just the thought that I'm gonna die one day.
22, thereabouts.
Mm. But yeah, the thought of religion and obviously the afterlife being heaven um, is a lot better than nothing in my eyes. Um, the other thing I'd be scared about is probably how selfish I'd be.
Mm.
Is I think if I didn't find religion, I'd be a very selfish person, and that would come out in all the relationships I would have had with family, friends, and whoever else.
Mm.
So yeah, death
And if you
and
found,
selfishness.
and even though you've now been living Christian morals and Christian ideals, you feel as though if you found out that God didn't exist, you would slip from those morals.
I think so, because the thought that God is always there, always present, it keeps you in track. Because there's loads of times, like daily and hourly, that I say I could do this, but then I think actually no, what I should do is this, and I know God's watching me, so I am going to do that.
Right. Yeah.
Because actually, when the first question, I read it quickly, as in about apologists and how quickly we are to say sorry
Oh,
about
right, I
things.
see. Yeah.
That was just a quick read that I did earlier. And I thought the way that I think about it is when you make a mistake, you go, oh my goodness, I've made a mistake, don't tell my dad. Or you say, oh my goodness, I've made a mistake, I need to tell my dad. And it's those two different mindsets that I think I would choose I'm not going to tell anyone. And then I'd have lots of secrets and I'd have lots of pressure and stress that comes with that. Where when you have I've made a mistake, I need to tell my dad, who in my case, my spiritual dad is God. So I go to him whenever I make a mistake, and that apology lifts off all the stress, all the pressure that I have in me. So I think if I didn't have that release, I would be selfish.
So I guess this links in really well with what like my reason for doing all of this is, in that I don't think that I think that there are atheists that have the same concerns.
Mm.
So there are people who don't believe God exists, who are frightened by death, have death anxiety, and also are not guided in their morality, or feel like they're not guided in their morality, because where is the structure? Where is the framework to live by? Where is the accountability? And I suppose what I'm trying to show through like the writing I'm doing, and through the like YouTube and stuff like that, to those people, to people that don't believe God exists, is that there are answers to those questions for them. There are ways of coping with death that don't require an afterlife. There are ways of checking your morality without that need necessarily. But if that's your kind of concerns, and well, I'm assuming that it's not the entire point. Like that's not the entire thing of your religion. Like that's not the foundation of it.
No.
But you know, it's like, I guess in terms of the kind of answer I expected, that was what I expected. And I think that loads of people who maybe have a feeling that they're, you know, that they don't like believe in God might stay in a religion because they're not getting those answers anywhere else. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think I agree that I think there are some people who stick in because of that. Yeah.
Yeah. Nick, what's your answer to that question?
It's an interesting question. I think, in a way, my answer would be everything and nothing. So, because, like I was saying, it's I feel much more sort of culturally, socially, as well as faith-based. I think I'd kind of continue doing what I was doing. To be honest with you, I'd continue. You know, even if I was praying and it would been proven that I'm not praying to anyone, I think that's still a healthy process to go through. So I'd probably keep doing that. In terms of, you know, there was, I don't know in this example what's going on with churches, but I'd assume there'd still be some sort of congregation of people gathering together who had done so previously. So I'd probably keep going to that. I'd probably stick with the sort of morality you were talking about, Harry, in terms of how that's Christian influenced and pervasive in our society. In terms of, it's really interesting, Sam, about thinking that God watching you, because I do think about that from time to time, but I don't think about it too often, to be honest with you. Just, you know, I think about religion and do pray and things like that, but I don't particularly think of in the situation example you provide regarding sort of actions there. So I don't think it would change too much either. But then an interesting question, because I've only ever had this one cultural, social religion, I don't know, maybe I would suddenly have an absolute fear of death and wouldn't have a moral framework to fall back with. So don't know is my answer. No idea.
Before I'm going to ask a question, but before I ask that question, I think what you said reminded me of something that I found quite funny, which is there's somebody said something like atheists think about God more than some Christians, and I think that answer kind of demonstrates that atheists sometimes are thinking about God more than some Christians do, which is quite funny. But the question I was going to ask was, do you find that you don't necessarily think about death or don't feel frightened by it? Do you think that that's because you find comfort in the idea of an afterlife, even if it's not something that springs to mind that often?
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, it's obviously a relationship. So in terms of death, we have quite a fairly intimate relationship with it. I wouldn't say I'm like, you know, no one's a fan of death or scares me in the same way others have described. So I don't know. I mean, I don't think, you know, the idea of
Oh, Nick.
Nick, your internet is shocking.
We've got, yeah. Well,
can I just say something whilst Nick's looking like a ghost and frozen? I think Nick is actually in a unique position on death because I think he's been exposed to it so much that
I was going to say it's worth
family trade maybe he has a kind of like a more he's gone again.
It's coming
There's
back.
2 Sams on my screen now.
That he has kind of this unique position where, you know, it's kind of like something that is maybe he's more exposed to it, therefore his kind of like thoughts about it are less extreme, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for context, I don't know if it's been mentioned that Nick comes from a long family history of like being involved in the funeral business.
Yeah.
So.
It's just got his name up now.
He's slowly joining.
And you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Do you have an
Ooh, we can
Ethernet
hear
cable,
you.
Nick?
I do not.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Yeah, it's been a bit sketchy today. I don't really know.
Okay. Well, we'll try and carry on. We'll do our best to understand.
did you-
But I think what you were saying was pretty clear. I think you were saying that you don't have necessarily the same kind of like fear as other people. Well, as Sam, and that. But I think whilst you were like kind of frozen, I said that I think you're in a bit of a unique position because of your family's trade. The fact that you've been kind of exposed to that from quite a young age, and you know, you kind of had a bit more exposure to it, so maybe your thoughts about it are a little bit more refined than most people's, even if you aren't aware of that.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's interesting because I think people talk about death and dying as like being at peace and things like that, which is a nice thought. But death is like awful. It's just like the absence of everything. It's just the worst. So I mean, me funny faces. I'm not sure if you can hear me.
It got a bit sketchy.
Oh my god. Nick, have you got 4G?
Yes.
Maybe try connecting on your phone. That might be better.
How's my connection better than yours? I'm on my phone.
He's going to join on his phone.
I would be really very interested to talk to Nick's dad about death.
Oh my god, yeah, I would love. Do you know what?
From a philosophical point of view,
that would be a great.
PhD
right,
in philosophy.
I need to take a note because I think I want to get Nick's dad on to my YouTube because I think that would be awesome.
Really interesting.
Here we go. Here he is, Nick. That's better. This is better. You're clearer as well. Your face is clearer.
Go landscape.
Yeah. Turn it sideways though.
Oh, on this phone, I think you're playing your.
Yeah, but the phone's much clearer. There we go.
Hey.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay,
There's your beautiful face. There he is.
Right, I don't have that much data, so better be swift.
Okay, no worries. We were just saying, Nick, that Harry was making a good point. We want to talk to your dad at some point.
Doesn't your dad have like he's a philosophy PhD, isn't he? He's like, or masters or something high up.
He's a doctor, yeah. He's a PhD.
Yeah, he's studied high level philosophy and has worked as an undertaker his whole life. He must have some very interesting takes on death and such.
Yeah, he's Dr. Death. He'll be ready for you. Sure.
Okay,
be
cool.
up for a conversation.
I'll set that up with you, Nick, because that'll be great. Okay, cool. I think let's move on to question number 3 because I think we're clear on that.
I didn't answer.
Oh, sorry, Harry. Go on. Carry on. If you found out conclusively that God did not exist, what would be your biggest concerns or worries?
Nothing. Next. No, that's not true. No. I think, to be honest, I think it would be. It wouldn't have like a day-to-day effect, but it would make existence much more terrifying. On like an emotional level, because if there's no creator, if everything didn't. Sorry, let me gather my thoughts. I should have been doing this while the others were talking. If there was not a intention in the creation of the universe, then it must therefore be the result of probability.
Yeah.
So, using the multiverse progression, like interpretation of quantum theory, like the that sort of progression of time, that means that we would be on an ever increasingly more unlikely strand of probability. If there was no intention from the beginning, then the likelihood of the universe being destroyed kind of increases exponentially as time goes on. Which I guess fundamentally doesn't matter on a day-to-day basis, because
that
we'd
can
all be dead.
I can imagine that putting you in a spin though.
We'd all
Specifically. I can imagine that
because
putting
we'd all just be gone. But it does. But it would be. Yeah, I guess it would affect cosmology more than it would affect my day-to-day life. But it would be it would open up a can of worms.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. That's a good answer. That's food for thought.
And
I like the answer.
and I think it makes sense.
I think it made sense as well, but my knowledge of quantum theory and stuff is like nothing. So there we go.